You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Live from Force 13 HQ and from our contributors from around the world. Here's your tropical weather bulletin. Good morning, August the 16th, and it's the busy tropics right now. To invest in the Central Pacific, 90 and 91C, Hurricane Gert moving off towards the northeast in the Atlantic, and the two invest down there in the main development region of the Atlantic Basin. Also, in the Western Pacific, we've still got Typhoon Banyan and still somehow got Invest 91W. But tonight, again, we're looking at Hurricane Gert, which has winds of 80 miles per hour and a pressure of 981 millibars at the last NHC update. It's at 33.7 north, 71.2 degrees west, and you can see how it's been progressing today on the GO satellite's 1-minute imagery, which is fantastic, by the way. The eye feature you can just about make out there, but it's not really properly come out in that time. We expect in the next few days it will move towards the northeast, could strengthen more, possibly reach Category 2 as it heads out to sea, and it will turn extratropical probably on Thursday or Friday, and then move off towards right out to sea there and move towards the north generally. In the rest of the Atlantic, you can see the two Invest 91 and 92L. Progressing towards the west. Some of the models are very bullish on one, the other, or even both. Earlier the HWRF said that it would enter the Caribbean 91L as a Category 3. Well, you've also got the two invests in the Central Pacific and what's left of Hova still progressing over there in the eastern part. 91C could develop, medium chance according to the CPHC. In the Western Pacific, Banyan moving off towards the north and still quite a compact system being dragged up by that front, and it will turn post-tropical in not too distant future. And 91W is somewhere down there near the Philippines, but goodness knows where. In the Australian region and the South Pacific, not much going on, but you can see a significant system pushing through towards the southeast there, extratropical in nature, south of Fiji and Tonga, and also another system off the coast of New South Wales. In the Indian Ocean, fairly quiet. Monsoonal stuff going on by the looks of it, again in the Bay of Bengal, and some thunderstorms, it would appear, in the Seychelles region. Sea surface temperatures very warm as they have been for some time. Where 91C is, they're around 28 degrees Celsius, maybe slightly less. Gert is slowly but surely entering cooler sea surface temperatures, around 27, 28 Celsius. And the two Invest down there, similar temperatures for them, 28 degrees or so, certainly enough to sustain a tropical cyclone. Where 91W is, it's very high indeed, perhaps 30 Celsius there. And where Banyan is, I think it's moving off into colder waters now. I'm not quite sure, I think it's on the margins now nearly. Here's Hurricane Gert on the floater imagery in the last few frames, how it's been progressing, moving towards the northeast. Now you can see quite clearly that's the storm in relation to the outer banks of North Carolina. You can see on the left-hand side and Bermuda on the far right over there. Interesting looking storm. It's sort of elongated band to the south there, but the central area of Gert has still been struggling to get itself together, particularly on the western side. The eye has never been particularly well defined, and it does appear to have lost itself a little bit in those latest frames. We'll have discussion on that shortly, of course. And this is Typhoon at Banyan, the latest imagery on that, also not looking particularly good, considering how it did look in days gone by. The western side, again, really struggling on Banyan, possibly due to dry air. Not sure it's due to wind shear, as we discovered yesterday, but movement looks to be just east of north, and it's moving at quite a pace, moving off towards the north, obviously not affecting any land areas, could possibly reach Alaska as an extratropical storm. Don't worry, we don't think it will be tropical by then, but there's Banyan, the other named storm that we've got right now. Gert, a hurricane, the second one of the Atlantic season so far, and Kenneth is the next name in the Eastern Pacific. Harvey's next in the Atlantic, and there could be Irma as well on the way, who knows. Welaka in the Central Pacific could be a thing very soon indeed. I don't think we'll have a Coney as well out of this. And the next name in the Western Pacific is Hato, followed by Pakar. In the North Indian Ocean, Oki starts off list 7. if we get another storm over there, which doesn't look likely anytime soon. And in the southern hemisphere, the next names in Australia are Hilda and Irving. The southwest Indian Ocean, Ava and Boguita starts off the naming list there this season. And in Fiji, it's Fahey and Gita. So that is our beginning of the roundup there, and now we've got a full hour to discuss it. And I'm joined by the Skype team. My name's Nathan Foy, by the way. If you've never met me before, it's nice to meet you. And we're joined by several people this evening. Let's go through them all. Isaac first, how are you?
Good.
Excellent. We're also... Hold on, I've lost my thing. Dane, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
And we'll try and get something up on the screen shortly as well. How are you this evening?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Oh, good. Orlando joining us from New Jersey. If he's there. If not, we'll come back later. David, hello, in Australia.
Good to be here again.
Yes, with another update, of course. Hank also joining us from Texas, much like Isaac. Hello.
Hi, Nathan. How are you tonight?
We're fine. We're tracking the storms, of course. No warnings in effect. I don't think I said that earlier, but that's obviously an important point. And Craig joining us from Scotland.
I think he's having mic issues.
Is he really? Okay. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, do let us know. And I think we did have one or two earlier, but whilst I go and hunt for those, I don't know if anyone who would like to begin first tonight.
Well, Gert is actually... I think Gert's actually a really interesting storm. This thing has been rather interesting to track. I mean, if we pull up the floater imagery really quick from the excellent NASA MSFC site, we could see...
I have it here.
Once this loads, there you go. We can see how it's progressing north-northeast and how there's a lot of leftover energy back here. I'll explain why in a minute. And you can see the core really isn't getting its act together. This thing has ingested a lot of dry air, and it's still trying to get out of its system. Once it gets up into this area towards the northeast as it moves away, it should begin to do that and should have a better environment to strengthen. Again, I'll explain why in a minute. And you can also see this really pretty beautiful outflow on the eastern side of the system, and some even on the northern side. And it's not being as portrayed as much because there's more shear over there. So, Gert, okay. So we have
the models already. Goodness.
Well, this isn't the models actually. This is to help me explain what I'm about to.
We will be at the models soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. So this right here is a potential velocity streamer. So what this does is it allows the potential velocity to move through the atmosphere kind of like a fluid. But behind it, you have this area of lower velocity. And that is why there's a lot of these clouds that are just not really moving anywhere. They're just staying here because there's nothing really to push it anywhere. What this is also doing is also allowing the polar jet streak, which if we pull up the 200 millibar winds, we can see that it's pretty prevalent here. And what it's doing is it's actually enhancing it and actually enhancing some baroclinic interactions. What that can do to the system is it can help it intensify even if the waters below it are becoming colder. And you can see that as it moves through the Atlantic, it starts to deepen. Maybe unrealistically, maybe not. But I think this might actually be a reasonable pressure for the storm. And
Category 3 at 40 degrees north?
That's more of a Category 2 pressure for this.
I'm just
latitude.
quoting a particular model.
Okay, well, we'll rant about that in a minute, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, you can see it moves off, becomes extratropical. While I'm also here, I'm just going to point this out really quick. The two NVES, if we go back to the analysis hour, there they are right there within this general monsoonal trough, as we can see right here. It's actually just back up a little bit. Kind of see how the flow is a little bit flat, I guess, especially you can see it right here, how it kind of goes back in, kind of curls into 92L, I think this is 91L, I think this is 92L, not too sure. But you can kind of see how it's kind of connected, and that's what we call the monsoon trough. and these two systems are going to break the monsoon trough. 91L should move into the Caribbean. 92L should move towards the north. 92L, might have a chance of development, might not. There's another little AOI behind that might develop also, so you kind of saw in the end of the run there. But that's the situation in the Atlantic.
We'll stay on that because we've got some questions already. Do any of the invests in the Atlantic pose a threat to the US at all?
Oh boy, too early.
Straight to the point, aren't we?
Too early to say. And there might be some hype out there over these because, yes, it is August, and yes, it is the season for these type of storms. But it's just too early to say. And I've also been seeing some people asking, is the eclipse going to pass one over? It could if one of them develops early enough. And that would be quite a sight. But I
honestly don't think it will be quite a sight. I think people are picking it up and they'll be disappointed. It's just that the clouds will be a little bit darker.
Well, it'll be the first time that one passes over a hurricane.
Yeah,
so
I guess just for the note, I guess. But it's not going to be visually spectacular, really.
Yeah, it's probably just kind of dark imagery, but I mean, it might be interesting to see, I guess. But that's a side point.
Well, it'd probably be better if a storm had a well-defined eye, but I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah, so my throat's beginning to hurt. So if anyone else can talk, go ahead.
Well, there's more questions, but does anyone else have any thoughts about that first question? First of all.
Not really.
No? Oh, everyone's quiet.
Nothing I can think of right now.
Apart from Hank. Everyone's too shy. Okay. Do you think... Does anyone think Gert will be a weak Category 2? That was another question.
I personally don't think so. I think it's just moving over too cool of waters. I mean, I think the NHC's last forecast that I saw, which projected a peak of 90 miles per hour, which is a pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Prediction for.
Well, what I just explained, like this streamer in this polar jet streak could really enhance the baroclinicity, and it could get to Cat 2. I'm not saying it will, but it could. So even if
close, it won't be a surprise if it gets to Category 2.
Yeah, and they were indicating 105 miles an hour last night before it gulped in a meal of dry air. So you never know with the system, and if the HWF actually comes true, then it'll probably
if the HWRF verifies, then everyone will be worrying about 91L because it says it's going to enter the Caribbean south of Jamaica as a Category 3 coming on 4.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And tying in with that, what's going on with 91L and its development chances decreasing? Question mark.
Well, if I could just pull this up really quick.
Will these invests get in the way of each other?
It could, and 1 second, let me see. Who has a screen share? I just want to really just quickly demonstrate this. Okay, do you mind if I just take it real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the general outline of it. This one is 91, this one is 92. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of a connection right there. You can see, it's very hard to see, I would imagine, but there's kind of a little bit of a connection right there. That's the monsoon trough. This one should move towards the... 1 second. This one should move towards the west, towards the Caribbean. This one should move towards the west-northwest, probably north of the islands. This one, I think, has a better shot of development. This one, I think...
better right now.
Right now it does, but this one also is moving into the eastern Caribbean, which is notorious for storms struggling in that area. So
well, I think 92L has a higher chance short-term. Would you agree with that?
I mean, long-term or not, I'm definitely not ruling it out. Like, long-term, this thing could... You really need to have these waves weak. So if this thing moves in weak into the eastern Caribbean, then I'll have a better shot of development out in this region. And that's something I might need to watch for because some of the longer range potentials that I've seen have some storms moving it into the Yucatan Peninsula. And not really like Franklin. Franklin moved in over here. This one is more like going to be moving right in here, sort of like an Earl Trek, but maybe not the same intensity. But this is long term, so don't take anything that I'm saying with high confidence. This, what I'm saying is really, I have like no confidence in this, honestly. And you know, this thing could easily just do that and just troll us all, but it could also do something, you know, kind of like what the models are saying, and do a track kind of like that. Now, longer range, you can see this big burst of convection with this wave over here. Now, this is typical waves
right over there.
Yeah, it's peak of the diurnal cycle, pretty much, and it's moving off the coast right now, and, you know, I think could become maybe a significant threat on the line, but it's also kind of far out, just because these waves will probably, you know, block out a lot of the Saharan air that's just going to be pushing out this way, and we'll be dying down as we get later in the month. So this might have some sort of leeway to it, but it's hard to tell at this point, and anything can happen, really.
Yeah, I'm just looking out for any more questions at this point. I don't believe there are.
Matthew Smith said,
Yeah,
when
apart
do
from
you
one.
think Banyan is going to dissipate?
Yeah, apart from the one that I was expecting to read out. Yeah. Well, it's not. It's probably going to transition to post-tropical, and it shouldn't take that long. A bit more than 24 hours, 48 hours. Maybe it'll be done by then. Who knows?
Yeah. So Banyan is. Let's just say it's done, pretty much.
Well, it may as well be. Here it is right now. It's still looking decent, but it's not affecting any land areas, and it's a lost cause.
So let's see. So
Anyway,
I
there's
see
the
that,
Saharan air layer on the screen here.
yeah, so you can kind of see what I was talking about as the waves are kind of barriers, but you also have this little burst coming out kind of in front of it, but this wave is also rather elongated, so it's probably going to deflect some of that and push it out in front, and it could have some chance to spin up a little vortex towards the tip of the wave, and that could end up being what develops, but also early and also nothing set in stone. And
When is it ever?
the Atlantic this year has just been, honestly, it's just been kind of but it's also been kind of because, you know, it's kind of a little
so
bit
descriptive.
I'm sorry. It's a little bit disconcerting, but it's also a little bit just, you know, whatever at the same time. If you know what I mean. Because, you know, you got these big waves that are coming off Africa, but they're just fizzling pretty much.
Yeah. I just find myself drawn to looking at that HWRF forecast again for 91L. It says it will become a Category 4 south of Jamaica and moving in a pretty much straight line west almost, bound for probably the northern tip of Honduras.
But also remember that the HWF isn't all that great with storms that haven't already formed yet. So
Yeah.
even now, it's been spit out just ridiculous solutions for invest that will never come true, even in the lightest of days. And
Yeah, the GFS prediction for 92L is pretty ridiculous.
yeah, why
92.
this? Yeah,
92, 93, whatever.
Yeah.
and that
Is it somewhere along the stupid lines of, say, it's 862?
It drops
Oh
it to
dear, don't say
939 for some reason.
We'll get on to model craziness shortly. HWRF, by the way, also says that 91C will be a short-lived tropical storm. Oh, and 90C as well. How's that possible? They're both right next to each other, and it thinks they'll both take similar tracks as tropical storms. Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Fujiwara alert.
Quite.
yeah, another one.
Alright, one or two comments about Canada and whether Gert will affect Canada. It's unlikely, isn't it?
No, the track's
In
pretty
a
set.
dramatic way, at least. Obviously, there might be some. And here's the view. Well, that was the view from the National Hurricane Center. We'll go back to that shortly, but there's the track forecast. Not too far away from Newfoundland, but quite enough breathing space, I would say. And there's the 5-day view on what we're expecting. So 91L on the left, 40% chance in 5 days. The other one, 92L, the other orange one, again 40% in the next 5 days. And they had a higher 48-hour chance on that than on 91. And disturbance number 3, yep, it does. And disturbance number 3 there hasn't been designated as an invest, and that's the one that you were pointing out. Is it that's emerging off Africa, or is it even further? No, that is along the coast.
That's it. You can see there's no X in there because the system is not within the watch area. And that graphic tells you that it is the season for hurricanes. As you can tell.
And you may remember yesterday in the East Pacific we had 3 areas of interest, all at low chance, and now it's down to 1, and it's 10% in the next 5 days. Shoddy from the East Pac.
Yep. If I can... where did I put MJ on?
And then there's this mess in the Central Pacific. 60% chance in the next 5 days now. So they've dropped 90C completely, and they've kept 91C with that.
No, this is 90C. They dropped 91.
Here's the issue with both of those. If I can just really quickly show this. Yeah, that MJO. This is why all those invests have been dropping. It's not favorable at all.
Now, for people who haven't seen this before, what do these colors denote?
Okay, so green indicates rising air, and then these orangish and reddish colors indicate sinking air. So red means bad, green means good, basically. So
tropical cyclone favorability.
Right. You can still get development with sinking air, but it's just less likely. And
it's certainly been apparent, hasn't it?
Yeah. And you can see that it slowly transitions towards the west and takes over the Atlantic and towards the beginning of September. But then you get later in the month, and we could have some problems. This reminds me a lot of last year. I'm just going to say.
So you'd suggest that the turn of the month into September might be quiet in the Atlantic, or at least quieter. And then when are we looking for the potential uptick? When's that?
Probably
a month from now.
Once we get towards mid-September, most likely into October, month that we really need to watch, I think.
So Matthew again.
No. Probably not a Matthew, but we could see something that could be, a pretty significant storm for some land areas, probably. We've had so many big October storms. What's to say this year will be any different?
Yeah, well, of course, we did have technically 2 last time.
Yeah, we did. So, October is the month where everything's on the table. Could literally do it.
It's probably the most unpredictable, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's when the models struggle the most. And, King Euro shows pretty much most of the solutions it spits out end up being somewhat correct. But other than that, the models are just all over the place, really. Joaquin was a nightmare. Sandy was a nightmare. Matthew was a nightmare. All these storms in October, I could just go on and on. They're all nightmares, but
oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like 92L's path is headed to Florida. Will that change? Says Bryce.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think it will hit Florida. All honesty.
Who else hasn't spoken much so far and would like to take the floor right now? Anyone brave enough?
I will.
We'll start with Dane, then we'll go to Isaac.
Now let me start by just taking over the screen share real quick here, just for the sake of doing that. Because there's a tornado warning.
There's a tornado warning. Oh boy.
Yep,
we do cover everything here. So, Nebraska again, you say?
Yes, Nebraska again.
Just like
currently for northwestern Cheyenne County and the panhandle of Nebraska until 7 p.m. Mountain. A confirmed tornado was located 9 miles northeast of Potter or 15 miles northwest of Sydney, moving east at 25 miles per hour. Confirmed by weather spotters.
All right, thank you for that. What else is going
So
on out
basically,
there
a
at the moment?
tornado up like about here, moving in this direction,
Yeah, east.
essentially.
Anything else out
Pretty
there?
much dead east, yes.
Any severe thunderstorm warnings and the like?
There are 2 more across the state of Nebraska. There's one well north of the
Yep.
original tornado warning, and there's another severe thunderstorm warning out further east, like way farther east.
Yep.
And I must add, one of them says that there might be a possible tornado in it too.
Yeah, they
Similar to
confirmed
the
it was
severe
just
warnings.
said, yeah.
Yeah.
So confirmed tornado over there in Nebraska. Isaac, what did you want to say?
Oh, I was just gonna pull up the waves, water vapor imagery of the waves, 92 and 91L, and if anyone wanted to say anything more about them.
Ah, and this is another view. What can we make out from this imagery, if anything? Well, you can just about
there's a
see
lot of-
over the very edge of the Earth there, the African wave.
Yeah. And then the 2 waves right here. Hank, do you have anything to say about this? You're
Look
here?
at that dry air. Just
Yeah.
pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, can't. That's mostly what I'm talking about. The Eastern Caribbean. Like, look at that dry air. Look, I mean, you can't really see the shear on that, but you can see just clouds kind of having sort of a streaming shape. So, I mean, it's just unfavorable for these waves. I mean, they got to go in weak and not like pretty like high amplitude waves or even weak tropical storms.
Could you imagine what we'd be seeing if that dry air didn't exist right now?
Westpac.
Mm.
Dry air pretty much is the saving grace of the Atlantic, pretty much.
Yeah, kind of looks like 91 hours just basically running straight into dry air.
Yeah, it is.
As you'd expect, I suppose. And there's Gert up there, and you know, it doesn't look great, I have to say, on the infrared.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's having struggles. Look at that, like, it's just pumping in dry air, like, a lot, and you can't really do much to prevent that with a storm that's in that position with that little potential velocity towards its south and a lot towards its east. You got to have it really just surrounding the system in all quadrants to really give it a good shot of having a better chance for development.
And here's Banyan, how that's doing right now, visible.
Oh, yes. Looks better
looking
on that shot than what we've been showing.
This is what it looks like on infrared right now. Doesn't look too good on infrared.
Oh dear.
Then while we're at it, here's winds here in the North Atlantic.
Typical high latitude weak typhoon there.
Yeah. And here's I keep forgetting the name. Gert. Yeah, that's Gert.
Yeah.
And you can see it's in light winds here, and in the waves right here. You can barely see. I can't remember for the life of me what. If this is 91 or 92
is what you're over there. 91L is what your cursor's over.
And 92 is just off screen right there.
And they're both in
so.
fairly low amounts of wind shear. It's going to get worse for them now.
So really quick, Isaac, before you change, that big area that you can see of pretty high shear, that's what we call the tropical upper tropospheric trough, or the TUT for short. And what that basically does, it pretty much kills every single tropical wave that moves into it, like a buzzsaw, pretty much. And it's when you have that, you know that you're not really going to see these huge, Cape Bird systems, because it takes a while for that to retreat, only a week or two. And once that is out of the picture, then we start seeing, these waves that come out and potentially become these huge storms. But for now, I don't think it's going to be that possibility for the next 2 weeks, even though MJO is in configuration.
And quickly, before I go on to the forecast advisory for Gert, here's what the wind shear looks like where Banyan's at right now.
And
for the load.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know if anyone's got any satellite imagery of the. Well, in fact, we could show from the earlier graphics that we started to show on actually what the Western Pacific looks like. And if anyone has any, well, we'll come on to that shortly. But first, there again is the track map for Gert.
Again, 80 miles an hour. Pressure, moving northeast at 12 miles an hour. Still trying to find the pressure here. Pressure is 981 millibars, located at 33.7 north, 71.2 west as of the 5 p.m. Advisory from the NAT to 8 p.m. should come out maybe 2-3 hours from now. And then quickly, here is Banyan. I'm going to make this short just in case anybody else wants to screen share. Here's a check with Banyan. Currently 75 knot winds, expected to start weakening and then die off as it approaches Alaska as a probably extratropical or post-tropical storm.
Yeah, but I've been looking
that's
on
Alaska that I see. Isn't that the Aleutians?
Yeah, it's the Aleutians.
What?
That's the Aleutians.
On the imagery right now, though, I've got to point out there is another what appears to be a tropical disturbance in between Banyan and 91W. Has anyone picked that up?
I think that's 91.
Well, no, it's not tagged as anything, but I just thought that was interesting.
I don't have.
That's why I guess somewhat of a feature. It could be something
Little
soon.
system there drifting southwest.
Yeah, I mean, it might actually have somewhat of a very broad area of turning, so that might be tagged pretty soon. I don't know if GHWC probably isn't monitoring it if it's not tagged. So,
yeah, indeed. But that is everything really, and yeah, a lot of systems to track nonetheless. No less than 5 invests and 2 cyclones. I think it will do a little bit of a job for the ace, don't you think?
Yeah.
And there again, we're looking at the 1-minute imagery from earlier today on Gert. Fantastic imagery there by the Ghost 16 satellite. But there we
If
are.
wants to screen share, go ahead.
And if anyone wants to send in any comments or questions whilst we're on the air, do send them in. David, what are your thoughts?
I'm wondering whether we're going to see a couple more tropical signals. One up in the South China Sea, one in the South Indian Ocean, and one to...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the tropical cyclone formation guide. The Bay of Bengal, what's the one tracking east?
Well, there's nothing in the Bay of Bengal.
No, it's the next one across.
Are you talking
The
about
next
the
one
graphic?
across?
Hold on 1 second. David, are you talking about the graphic that has like a 2% chance of tropical cyclone development in like...
Yeah, it's one I normally monitor, but I'm just picking up a bit of purple. It's for the South China Sea.
South China Sea looks
well.
The South China Sea on this imagery, there's hardly anything going on there at the moment. And to show there the Indian Ocean again, doesn't appear that anything's going on there yet at this moment in time. But 1 or 2 of the models, as I saw before the show, might be indicating something in the South China Sea, but I think that was speculative and long range. Shall we take a look at some models?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, if the CMC doesn't show anything, it's not happening.
Oh, what fun.
Intensity on 91L.
That's a huge bowl of spaghetti that we could spend hours discussing.
Cat 5.
Oh, no.
Mid-range Cat 5.
Oh dear.
HWRF,
There's no such thing as a mid-range Cat 5, and the HWRF isn't saying that. It's saying Category 4, however, for Invest 91L in the Caribbean Sea. It's been saying that for a while. Whether that verifies or not will be remarkable if it does, and perhaps terrifying for some. But I don't think it will, just as it predicts Category 4 Gert. which doesn't look like it's going to verify with the latest that we've seen from it, which, I mean, it should get to category, well, it could get to category 2, but it's going to be borderline, I reckon, on that, and I'm not sure it's going to get anywhere near category 4. It's got to have a much better eye than what it's showing us at this moment in time.
Anyways, yeah, so here are the models, and so this is the European model showing.
We haven't got this right now.
What?
We haven't got it right now.
It shows the red box around my screen, so that's interesting. That's really. Let me just try this really quick.
In the meantime, some people asking or talking about the eclipse. Any plans in the room about the eclipse?
Right here. I will actually be traveling into the path of totality.
Very good. I won't.
I'll be in school.
But I'll definitely bring back some photos. I will say that much. I'll definitely bring back some photos for us.
Well, look forward to it, and you know, I do wonder, because what part of the eclipse do we look out for? Sometimes you can create more, what the one I'm looking for here, more interesting pictures of eclipse photos when the sky is actually a little bit cloudy rather than completely clear, because it's just all the same, unless you're getting the real close-up when the actual totality is happening. But for those not in the area of totality, a bit of cloudiness actually makes it a little bit more clearer without it being too bright for your eyes and all that, which is something I noted during the 2015 eclipse over here before we took to the skies and had to put on the solar filters and special equipment and whatnot. Make sure your eyes don't burn, everyone, by the way, for the eclipse.
Yeah, if you're familiar with where the point of greatest eclipse is, it's actually in western Kentucky, I think it is, like just northwest of, I think it's Hopkinsville. I'll actually...
And you'll be there, I'm guessing.
You guessed it.
Right. Okay. Well, look forward to it. In the meantime, I think we're still waiting for Hank at this point, if the screen share will cooperate with him at all. Perhaps not.
Yeah, it will.
Alright.
Yeah, let's just sit with this parameter. So yeah, this is the European model. Oh, don't load that ad, please. Showing Gert moving off towards the northeast.
We're still not getting it here, I'm afraid.
It shows the red box on my screen, so I don't know what the issue is.
How very odd.
1 second.
Just when we're getting to the fun part.
Alright, is it show now?
No.
Well, I give up.
It was
working
until now.
Not on the stream, but I see it over here.
Well, it won't be on the stream because I'm not showing it, but anyway.
Okay, well, anyways, European shows Gert moving northeast, dying out in about 60 hours, most likely. It tries to develop 91, but fails. It is more and also fails with 92. It's more optimistic about the wave behind us, though.
The HMON model, by the way, yesterday was pretty bullish on Gert and, well, and the Invest, I think. It said for Gert that it would be 110 miles an hour. It said for 91L that it would be, I think, 65 or 70 miles an hour. Now it's saying, I can't remember what it says for Gert right now, but it doesn't develop 91L at all.
Yeah. So GFS, real quick, my favorite model in the entire world.
The GFS is completely loopy.
Exactly. Shows it merging with the extratropical cyclone over the Canadian Maritimes in about 2 days. And then the two Invest neither really develop. I mean, they're high amplitude waves, pretty much. And still more optimistic about the wave behind those two, and a little bit too optimistic if you ask me. CMC warning, not everything will develop here.
Oh no.
Done. Got it. Thank you. Good. Anyways, showing if the hours would load. So shows Gert moving northeast, merging with the extratropical system. We know the whole story by this point. As per usual, develops both invests and moves both. Yeah, that's not fun.
Can you tell us what the GFS is going nuts about in the Western Pacific then?
Sure.
Apparently, is it the GFS that's going nuts about something? Dane saw it earlier.
Yeah, I think it dropped it to like 924 or something like that if you go up to hour 204, I think it is.
Now, which storm did it develop? One that doesn't exist yet?
Yeah,
right.
That's what it developed.
But not 91W.
Let's see, this abomination right here. GFS always wants to just overhype whatever storm it feels like in whatever basin it feels like.
It has swapped roles with the CMC sort of, or it's made the CMC redundant in its job of being the nuttiest model in the world.
Well, CMC, it just develops way too much lower level and mid-level cyclonic vorticity, and GFS just doesn't have a sense and intensity guidance whatsoever.
Oh.
So, really quick, NavGem, for whatever it's worth, shows Gert becoming a pretty big extratropical system as it merges with the one over Atlantic Canada. Develops neither wave, to be expected. Not really much else in the other basins right now, and probably just going to be more or less just pretty, just relatively just kind of quiet, I would say.
Do you still think it's surprisingly quiet?
No, it's nothing compared to what it was like the first half of the year. That was to the point where it was kind of a little bit boring, and it was almost to the point where, it was to the point where I was almost wishing for tropical cyclones. It was bad.
Well,
but, July did this.
Cyclone fans have been going stir crazy the first half of this year.
Oh yeah, that was just. Yeah, so overall we can see GFS develops this one system, moves it towards Taiwan, tries to develop that other system in the Atlantic, tries to get something going in the Eastern Pacific, just a tropical storm by the looks of it, and then something else later on down the line. And it looks like it tries to develop 90C, I think, into depression, I think. European, this is the worldwide view. So it's just showing really just not much across the world.
Oh, good.
One of the Westpac's things trying to get going but doesn't get to, true TC status, and then also tries to get the wave behind 91, 92 in the Atlantic. It tries to get that going as well. Your favorite model in the world shows...
Oh, yeah?
Let's see if the hours would
Well,
load.
more like the worst model on the wall.
Yeah, it was sarcasm. It shows pretty much the same things I would imagine. The Eastern Pacific system, ignore the Atlantic. Oh, jeez. Let's just switch. Let's see. NavGem probably shows a similar thing with European, I would assume.
By the way, just in case you wanted to know, I think there's another ASCAT pass coming through the two invests in about an hour or two.
Okay. So we might get something out of that. I don't think we will, but we could.
Well, 92L, looking at this imagery, doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, it doesn't, but I don't really think you'd get a close low just yet. It just doesn't have the correct...
Yeah.
Doesn't have the correct velocity values,
I think they'll up the percentages.
Hmm?
I think they'll up the percentages.
Well, they already came out with their TWO, I think. And I don't think they adjusted it.
Oh, when it comes to the...
Aren't they? They're still saying 40%. They'll probably... I mean, looking at it right now, I'd be surprised if it didn't put up to 60 in 5 days.
I mean, they might, but...
Or maybe they just don't know which one will form yet, and it could still be the case that both of them sort of cancel out each other.
Could be. So HWF...
percentages going up, 91L is just falling, is basically just falling apart with dry air.
It
and
looks
I'm
like it's
not necessarily
elongating,
convinced
actually,
they would.
west to east.
Which one?
91L looks like it's being stretched from west to east right now, and really struggling.
Well, that's because it's still connected to the monsoon trough, so it's gonna look that way, and it's...
But it appears it's going backwards towards becoming a tropical cyclone rather than towards it. It looks like it's becoming less of one as time goes on.
I mean, well, I'll have to look for myself, but I would assume it's just due to
from what I'm seeing here.
I would assume it's just due to the interaction with the trough and all that fun stuff. So, the hurricane models H1 and HWF show system that for Gert it shows a storm that will probably not get that strong. HWF for 91L, as Nathan has been hinting at, is showing a rather bullish solution that probably won't come to fruition.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, these hours are taking a while to load, so that's why it's taking some time.
Well, whilst we wait for that, there's a question which you might want to put some input on. Is 2017 similar to 2011 in terms of activity, and I'm guessing in general?
Kind of. Eastern Pacific was less active. I don't know.
Of course, on the Atlantic timetable, not much happened until pretty much now. Next week, Irene will form.
Well, you did have 8. It was pretty active, but none of them got to hurricane status.
Yeah.
So, and then Westpac, I know, was below average, so I wouldn't see how it wouldn't be. I have no clue how the Southern
Cat 5s, though.
Yeah, but I think those were after.
I think one was in. I think one of them was in August, if I remember right. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Nanmadol was around this time, or after that. I know. No, yeah, it was around Irene.
So how about this? Out of all the named storms so far, which one has the highest chance of getting retired?
How do I know? It's like season at
So it looks like the top 5 analogs currently,
none, by the way,
based off sea surface temperatures for the hurricane season, according to Tropical Tidbits. They have on the list 2013, 1968, 1967, 1970, and 2014.
So, issue number 1. It's a CDAS and it's outdated. So that's one issue out of the...
But let me just clarify, was that for the Atlantic or the whole world?
Well, it looks like that was for the whole world, I would think.
Well, that is possibly true, that it's 2013 in general for the whole world. For the Atlantic, though, no.
Yeah, the Atlantic 2013 was just... We can make a whole different live stream about 2013.
It's not 2013 in the Atlantic, folks.
Yeah. And then the NMME or whatever has 1990, 2004, 2014, 2013, and 2003.
Surprised not to see 2010 in any of these analogs, but that's something else. That's more of an Atlantic analog, though.
Well, I think I've not been looking at analogs for a while, but at least at the about 3 or 4 weeks ago, the best analog was still generally 2016.
That actually doesn't sound too outlandish. I mean, it's actually probably the most likely solution. Think about the whole...
But not particularly a good analog. It's sort of like maybe a blend of 2016 and 2010 with something else thrown in as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you take out the record La Nina in 2010, then yeah, you're pretty... And 2010 is more of an Atlantic analog than the world, because we've already surpassed the EPAC activity in 2010 this year. So that wasn't too hard to accomplish. But yeah, actually 2016 is probably the closest thing we'll come to. I mean, late Westpac start, pretty busy July in the EPAC. what looks to be pretty similar pattern in the Atlantic for 2016 with the hint and JO pattern.
And 2016 was quite a similar year overall to 1979, believe it or not.
Which was also about a year in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Hurricanes David and Frederick.
Well, the amount of times we compared Matthew to David during Matthew.
That does not mean Matthew will form, folks. So, yeah, that's a storm that I think is just taking over everything pretty much. But, yeah.
It will, won't it? I mean, it's the first... I mean, that must have been a wake-up call. I mean, I don't know. Was it a wake-up call? I mean, some people... I remember just after Matthew saying that it was another bust, they said. Just because it didn't quite make landfall as a major hurricane in the United States.
Tell any Haitian that Matthew was a bust.
Yeah.
No.
You get slapped.
But regardless, it is the longest gap between major hurricane landfalls in the history of the United States, because the last gap of this length was in 1775.
And the United States did not exist back then, so...
Yep. So, it is a very, very long gap.
Well, it technically did. It was just 13 different colonies.
The United States did not exist as a country. No independence. Anyway. Sandy was enough, though, I guess. Sandy may as well have been had major consequences, didn't it?
Yeah, it did the damage of a major, but wasn't a major at all. Like, not at all.
And that is one of the biggest triggers for Devon's CDPS scale, isn't it?
Wasn't that like...
Ike was pretty bad, too.
Ike actually might have been a 3 at landfall, but that's besides the point. Yeah, Ike, Sandy, Matthew, those 3 really show that it means nothing that there's a major hurricane there. You can still get big storms. Gustav also. And Irene and Isaac even. So,
well,
means pretty much nothing.
Well, believe it or not, we're running out of time. Just, Hank, if you're able to look, or anyone, if you're able to look at the latest satellite imagery on Gert, could you just give us another evaluation on what you've maybe anything that's changed in the last hour whilst we've been on the air?
Well, let's just get the imagery to fully load.
It looks like ATCF is going with, yes, 75 knots now for Gert. So the next advisory will probably come out with 85 miles per hour here.
This doesn't really look 85 knots, but satellite doesn't tell you the whole story. Yeah, it doesn't. 85 miles an hour.
But then again, Kate was apparently.
Well, that actually, I'm pretty sure that was verified by some. I don't even. I know it was verified by something.
They're not doing any flights into this right now.
No, there hasn't been I don't think any recon in this because you can't just get recon into a system easily.
You can.
And this isn't heading towards land, so it's not like a priority or anything. It's not like this thing is moving.
Infrared, it's just not looking great in those latest frames. It just seems to be losing organization.
Yeah, there's just a lot of dry air this thing is ingesting, and it's just not allowing the system to really get going as it could have if it was able to build up its inner core faster and would have been able to shunt out some of that dry air. But I guess now it's just not really doing that. And really, you can just see this shear that's about to come in and just kind of move through it. But the storm is moving in the same direction. So it will be moving in the same direction as this wind shear. So that will negate some of the impacts, but not all. So really, this thing could, 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. It's up in the air, really.
Can we read into any of the activity we've already had to give us an indication of what's to come?
Well, we just had a bunch of weak tropical storms, honestly, and Franklin was the exception, and I guess Cindy also, but let's see. So I think Brett and Dom are probably the biggest indicators that this might be probably a big MDR season comparative to the past 5 years, which really
potentially low latitude as well. I mean, you look at the models for 91L, one or two of them earlier said that it would go into Honduras-Nicaragua border, which is quite far south, really.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you think about it, it's probably because we have such these waves are actually coming off a little bit farther south than normal. So that's both helping and, hindering development, because
You expect that more in early season, but around this part of the season, you'd expect them to be a little bit higher now.
Yeah, they're definitely higher now because, Brett came off really low and was formed pretty low still. And Dawn was also relatively low for the time that it lasted. And both of those probably indicate that you're probably going to see a lot of we're having these huge waves coming off, but not all of them are able to develop because they're what they were moving pretty far south, and you have less Coriolis force to work with there, and you don't have as much available spin. So overall, once these waves start moving farther north, then they'll have more vorticity to work with, but then you start dealing with the dry air and the tut and all that fun stuff. So I'm honestly a little bit torn on the season right now. I mean, probably well up above average, but maybe not exactly what we were thinking earlier in the season.
All right, well, no warnings in effect right now, but we'll continue to track Carrick and Gert, and that is us out of time for tonight. Thanks to Hank and everyone else who participated in tonight's stream. That hour went by really quick, by the way.
Welcome.
Yeah, indeed. Any final words from anyone? Make it quick. I guess not.
Well, definitely watch the Atlantic over the next few days, because obviously the waves, but we'll see. It's really too far out to see where they're going to go and how strong they'll be, but we'll keep an eye on them for you and see you guys later in the next couple of Bulletins. So.
Thank you everyone else for taking part and for watching, and of course we'll be here with more news as it happens. We'll of course online. If anything happens in between our daily updates, then we'll have more updates for you. And if necessary, we'll do 24-hour streaming. We've done it before, we can do it again if we have any more storms like Matthew, I suppose. But for now, that's all for tonight, and I don't anticipate we'll be on any time soon before the next scheduled show, which is same time, same place, 8 PM Eastern Time tomorrow, midnight UTC. On the beginning of Thursday is when we're next here. Until then, that's good night from me and the team, and we'll see you tomorrow. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.co.uk, at your service at any time. You can also find us on YouTube, the channel, search Force 13, all in text, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find us on Facebook at Force 13, and it's at Force